Hey guys, Sleepy Reader here. This time I actually am on a coffee break. There's no official coffee break where I work, but I can take a coffee break when I want. Starbucks is the only choice. I wonder if you can see me. Feels like the camera's shooting over my head. Let's see. This time I wanted to review the two DC women that I read this past week. Let's see, where are the comic books? Here they are, hidden under other things. Batwoman and Wonder Woman. These are both books I was really looking forward to a lot. They're two of my favorites, especially, well, love the Batwoman. Think Wonder Woman is brilliant. But these issues were both a bit of a disappointment, maybe because of my really high expectations. This issue of Wonder Woman was penciled by Tony Akins, and I think Manisha Minute often gets everything just right to begin with. Mentioned this is maybe not Tony Akins' best Wonder Woman work. It's fine comic book art, but he just seems to not be as connecting with the way Wonder Woman's been portrayed lately, both by him and by Cliff Chang. So anyway, the art it just felt too cartoony, and so we lost a little bit of the more mythical feel of how Wonder Woman has been feeling lately. And what else to say about it? In a way, it's a smaller bit of a story than we usually get in any given Wonder Woman issue. So it feels more like kind of in between events. This is just stuff in this issue that's leading to some other important story points that'll happen in the next issue. So I'd say essentially that's why it makes it a weaker issue. There's nothing particularly wrong, and there's some good moments. We get this mysterious, apparently god, I'm assuming another mythological god kind of character in the Arctic. So we see him not speaking English, bites off the head of someone, and then he can speak English. He calls himself the one with no name, the Crippler of Souls. I guess my mind wonders, well, does this have something to do with the new gods, or does this come out of Greek mythology still? Visually, he looks kind of like what I might imagine you would do one of the Titans. The Titans in Greek mythology were the ones that came before the Olympian gods, who then the Olympian gods overthrew, particularly Zeus overthrew, to become king of the gods, and the Titans were all cast out in various ways. So I'm very curious to see where that's going, and then we have Wonder Woman seeking out another demigod, and I'm not sure whether I should know something more about her in advance, or anyway, I'm not sure where that's going with the seeking out the demigod. We go to some war-torn area in the Middle East, and yeah, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being more unfocused. I still think I'm not as good at these in-car book reviews as I am when I do them at home, but anyhow, that's what it is. The other interesting little beat in the issue was Hera, who's now a mortal, fighting with what's her name? The chick who had the baby from Zeus. Anyway, and there's a nice beat where Wonder Woman pulls them apart, and she says she wouldn't let any friend kill anyone. So this was an okay issue if you're already reading Wonder Woman. Definitely not a jumping on point, and not the most exciting issue in the Wonder Woman series. In fact, maybe the first issue in the Wonder Woman series where I felt a little I'm being distracted by people outside the car, where I felt a little let down, because Wonder Woman has been such a high all the time. But no reason for me anyway to drop it or worry that in general it's going downhill. I'm a little more worried about Batwoman. Great art, still by J.H. Williams, as we've come to expect. But story-wise, it felt like they were just, what's the right word? Like they were slowing things down. Like, let's slow events down after the issue 12 being so exciting. Issue 0 was kind of a slow also, but and it doesn't need slowing down again. I shouldn't watch Minutia Man's reviews before I do mine, but I'm too excited to see his. But he kind of mentioned how, this is a slowing down of a story that hasn't had any kind of conclusion in over 13 issues. The one connection to the 0 issue is the way a lot of the story is told in text next to the pictures. And while the text is very well written and poetic, it also gives the story a slowed down feeling, and sadly does not take advantage of the great ways you can combine words and pictures by kind of separating the words and pictures a bit too much. The interesting part of it is the way the story gave us the point of view of Wonder Woman and the point of view of Batwoman, and both of those were done really interestingly. But the whole story is just they go into this maze looking for Medusa. It's a maze that's a prison for mythology's worst monsters. They go into the maze looking for Medusa, and she's not there anymore, and everyone's been... Well, I shouldn't say too much. And while, this was a really cool sequence, I wasn't clear enough on what happened there. I guess Batwoman saved the day with some gadget she has, but what that gadget did and what she exactly saved them from are very unclear. Visually, this page was very cool, but reading it, this is when Wonder Woman is being attacked by a creature named Nyx, who's working for Medusa, I guess. Visually, it was very cool, but I read it as best I could and couldn't figure out really what they wanted me to get out of it. I guess that's what Nyx really looks like, or does Nyx really just look like this, kind of a insectoid monster? I don't know. Or was this supposed to be some image of Wonder Woman? A pretty gruesome one. So yeah, it was everything was slowed down, and yet some key points, story points, were kind of obscure. Still, art you could look at for days. So ultimately, I'm curious enough to keep reading Batwoman, but I am back on the fence of, do I keep buying this or not? I think when J.H. Williams stops drawing it, I will take it off my pull list and I will just watch other people's reviews to see whether it's worth continuing. So those were my two slightly disappointing comics because I had them overhyped in my mind. My women comics, because they both have woman in the title. I also read just digitally the first Cyberforce. Is that what it's called? Cyberforce, Mark Silvestri's Cyberforce, that they're giving out for free. I didn't actually see it at my comic book shop. And reading it as a digital comic was okay, but I would like to see it in print. I thought a lot of the art was good, with kind of a callback. It was by the art was by Koi Fem, kind of a callback to the 90s style art without being overwhelmed by the 90s style art. And I thought that there were a lot of interesting things in the backstory that they're trying to build up here. But my basic thought was, and this may be the problem of someone because I think it's mostly written by Mark Silvestri, someone who's really more an artist than a writer, even though he has lots of great ideas, is, I think, a good writer, or the best writers, make kind of a simple backstory, a simple origin, a simple core idea of what a book is about, and then as time goes on they create layers of complexity over that you can still understand easily because you've got this simple core. Whereas people who maybe have good ideas and are very creative but don't have that experience or natural talent as writers will make up a very complicated background and then maybe put a simple story on top of the complicated background. And that's what Cyberforce felt to me. I think if I were a kid reading it, I would have been much more excited by trying to figure out the complex background and stuff, and not bothered by what seems like the simple foreground characters. And as an adult reader, I much more want the complicated background, the complicated foreground, the sense of complicated real characters, and I don't want things to be obscured by this complex sort of heading towards the apocalypse science fiction background that they have in Cyberforce. But still, we've got 5 issues to learn to love this comic book before we have to start paying for it. So I'm still kind of excited to see where Cyberforce will go. I'm not giving up on it. And, none of the ideas in it, even though it's kind of this complex science fiction background that's got, none of them feel brand new to me. Again, if I were a young reader, I think I'd be more excited. The ideas would seem more new to me. But there is a lot of interesting stuff there. And as they peel back the onion a little more, maybe I will see the big picture that they're trying to paint a little better, and maybe as the complexity gets settled in. If you haven't read Cyberforce, if you haven't picked it up and you can catch a free copy, I think it's worth giving a shot. It's not a waste of your time for free. So anyway, let me see if I can get some outro music going again. I will be picking up my comic books. I have to compete with my own music. I will be picking up my comic books right on Wednesday today, which is today. I actually came to work really early so I could do it. It's kind of ridiculous. I'm still thinking about switching comic book stores to the one closer to my house. But every time I go to that farther away comic book store, I get so excited. I feel so much more into comic books when I go to the good comic book store. So maybe I'll even have some reviews by tonight, or at least by tomorrow, of this week's comics. Talk to y'all later.